Welcome, guys. Hope everybody's well. Slightly later this morning because I had a power cut at home, but it's 10 a.m. here in the UK. And yeah, we're going to go through obviously London, what's happened so far, and potential obviously opportunities why we've lined up how we have lined up. So I'm gonna start off with obviously what's been happening here. So had obviously some you know I th I would say expected data come out from yen. G GDP coming in slightly cooler overall. Even like, don't just presume that this is good data because you always want to look at the previous. Yes, it's better than expected, but obviously it's still slightly higher. So that's obviously one thing to be aware of here, especially this too. Yes, it's come out negative here, but also just be aware that look what it was predicted to be. So this is obviously as expected. I don't know if I'm expecting another kind of intervention this week or whether it's going to be probably the week after potentially, but I'm expecting yen to strengthen quite a lot. Chinese data. Let's just refresh my page. I'm not sure why it's not refreshed, but there we go. Perfect. Here we go. So negative. So unemployment rate ticked up 0.2. That's quite high for China. And then obviously we've had, pretty much negative data overall. So obviously, not that we trade Chinese yen at all, but obviously it's going to have that impact on Aussie, which we do trade. Because obviously, like I mentioned last night, for those of you who watched it, they are key trade partners. So, that's obviously one thing to be aware of. Apart from that, we don't have a lot else coming out today. We got some New York Empire State Manufacturing Index. In regards to the war, what is happening and why we've got basically 45 percent chance no change. You've got 35% chance escalation, and the rest is de-escalation. So pretty slim that obviously it's going to de-escalate within the next day or two. But obviously, it's the kind of escalation slash nothing happening, which is going to affect everything. For those who are eligible, obviously I've got my macro tool. It's live and it's working. So I did put this in the group, but it will give you a macro breakdown. Very very beginner. Friendly in regards to obviously what is happening and why. So yeah, and it will obviously break down each pair. And it'll just obviously help you have that kind of overall, macro outlook. So, that's like we can see here. I'd still like to check it all the time, but it's on pop point. Yeah, I'll just read a bit of it here. The dollar is under pressure this morning as weak US economic data released over the weekend has trimmed expectations for another Fed rate hike. Markets are now pricing in a hold through September, not a hike. That's dollar negative and risk positive for the commodity currency and currencies and cable. Cable is a GBP USD for those of you who obviously don't, know that. So that is one thing to obviously be aware of. Now let's have a look at what's happened, in regards to the dollar this morning. So we've broke through this support, which is as we had expected. I was hoping for a little bit of a pullback before we had this push to the downside, but that has not happened. So we've broken through here. All right. Yes, it's not closed. It hasn't confidently closed below because we did, zip back up. So that to me means that this is probably likely going to get hit. But obviously, it's whether this holds or whether it continues. We've got dollar currently down 0.22%. We've got yields down 0.17%, as we can see on the day here. But that's mainly the gap, the initial gap. I'm expecting yields to kind of trend higher. Stocks is very, very, mixed. We got US 100 still flying. We got SPX 500 at all-time highs, and we got US 30 kind of trailing to the downside. Um, Excuse me. Remember, US 30 is the top 30 companies. I normally have Tesla here. SpaceX was killing me. This was my entry here. I've got a long-term entry on SpaceX. I'm slightly down, but obviously not too worried here. We've got Tesla. Look at this gap in the market here. That is crazy. Closed, opened here, big gap. Managed to close it, but obviously, will it continue up? And obviously, actually make some ground up today. But we'll wait and see what happens here. Huge gaps everywhere. So companies like this will be affecting the US 30. Let's have a quick look at oil. Kind of tried to push to the downside, but still held. Remember, there's a large, from obviously what I've been reading. There was a large everyone's kind of stocked up on oil, so there's not an immediate rush for everything. So I'm looking at this 90 needing to be broken for us to really start to panic again about oil. And so that's obviously one thing that we need to look at. Now, let's obviously have a look at the pairs that we trade. We got obviously AUD USD here, flying high. Obviously, Chinese data came out. I think it's 8 a.m. That's obviously what's halted progress here. Potentially might be looking for this to come back down into this area here, and then we'll see how strong the dollar is. Potential continuation here. So that was obviously AUD USD. GBP USD has just kept on flying. I wanted to enter here. I could have gone a bit aggressive, but I wanted to see this kind of a pullback before we had this continuation to the upside. So just obviously treading this morning a bit carefully. Remember what I told you guys about make sure you gear your weeks up, slowly. And so that's obviously one thing that we need to do. Euro here, carried on flying higher, expecting a bit of a pullback on all of them. I'm not sure our trades are going to trigger on those this morning. USD JPY, don't think that has triggered for me yet. I'll have a quick look. No, 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 it come very, very close. So let's wait and see. That obviously did not trigger. It's only just off, but obviously, hopefully we get one more push up. We trigger, and then I want to move like this. Again, we've had a few, so that's obviously what I'm looking for in USD JPY. You've got to be a bit patient on yen. You want to be trading them. Make sure you're trying to sell from the right places instead of trying to jump in a bit too early. There would have been lots of traders, kind of understanding macros and then hopping in on off of this candle here, and then obviously seeing that continue to the downside. So you do want to watch out. Just be a little bit, careful with how you're trading here. So that's obviously one thing that yeah, happy, just wanting a bit of a pop up here. Now, gold is the interesting one, and I am probably going to start to scale in on gold here. I want to take gold back up to this this Asian high here. So actually, while we're in here, I'm going to put this in the group. So I am scaling gold up to let's say to be safe, 4414. Just put buys. That's obviously what I'm going to do here. So yeah, happy here. We've obviously come back down. We've tested the previous daily high, right? So, Asia's popped up nicely. That was obviously our Asian high. We've then popped back down and retested, as we can see here on a lower time frame. Come back down, retested this previous daily high. We've got a nice bullish candle here. So yes, I'm going to start to scale up. My expectation is that obviously we're going to hit, probably I'm going to go for 414 because it just gives us that gap, but obviously 415 to 416 and potentially higher, but I only want to take this level to level here. So that's obviously what I'm looking at this morning. So right, let's have a look at some of the questions here. Alex, Why has DXY broken through 99,500 support? Well, the overall, macros here, and I do think this line here, all right. Let's have a look here. This line here, it just, sums up everything. Markets are now pricing in a hold through September, not a hike. All right. That's dollar negative and risk positive for the commodity currencies. So that's why the dollar is, tanking because markets are pricing in that there's not going to be a rate hike, and this war doesn't seem to be pushing it. I mentioned this on the live last night. The dollar doesn't seem to be pushing everything like it did previously, so yeah, when obviously we have a bit of escalation, it's not affecting the dollar as much. And I think these, everyone buying in, plenty of oil has, kind of halted the rush to kind of, to kind of halted the rush for anyone, yeah, to, want to obviously push the dollar off the back of this escalation. I think it's, safe haven demands have, slowed. What causes gaps? So, simple, just, and, everyone, it happens in the, stock market, but there is what's called pre-orders. All right. Pre-orders, expectation, if everyone is, shorting. So, for example, what's gapped? I don't think much has gapped. Where are we? 2 hour here. Let's just have a quick look here. So I've got a couple of latecomers joining us. So I don't think much has actually gapped, if I'm honest. Nope. Looks like it was only really yields that gap. Remember, these obviously open slightly, later, so there obviously is that expectation. But yeah, it's just, either heavy, sellers or obviously heavy buyers. Like for example here, we've gapped open to the upside. It's just basically an influx of orders. So yeah. Does anyone have any more questions at all? Any more for any more? Yep. Tesla stock market always caps. They because like I'd said, there's what we call pre-orders, which can be put in half an hour before market opens. So, but believe it or not, the stock market's more manipulated than anything because everyone can see everyone's orders. So but obviously you can only see them after they've been placed. So yeah, imagine if you're a hedge fund and you'd see a rival hedge fund put a massive order in. That's why they normally scale in slowly. But yeah, sorry, there's a fly here and it's really, really irritating. Right, if that's all the questions, I'm going to end it here. I'm going to break a few pairs down as well for everyone. And today, does anyone have any random pairs that they want me to break down? Put it in the chat and I'll break them down and I'll record them afterwards. Actually, slightly different. So comment what pair on this YouTube video you want me to break down, and I'll break them down. So yeah. Comment on the YouTube video when I post it, and obviously I will break those pairs down. That's no problem at all. Right, have a great Monday. Let's, smash it. Hopefully, gold flies, hits our target, and we are absolutely chilling. So, have a good one.